I'm opening. We have an eye, sort of a nostril, 2 teeth. One of the teeth has a small cavity. Close call, folks, but I think we got here just in time.
Presented by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro. This is Anatomy of a Movie. In-depth discussions and breakdowns of various movie titles. And now that you've seen the movie, let the dissection begin. Turn down for what?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second time we opened Anatomy of a Movie with this song in 2014. The first time was Brick House.
I was going to say, was this Brick House too?
And on March 17th, 2012, it was announced that 21 Jump Street would have a sequel. That sequel has come out. It is 22 Jump Street, the movie we are dissecting today. We have Demetri Panos.
I'm back. Hey, welcome everybody. It's great to be here.
Back by popular demand.
Oh, really?
Roxy Striar, back by some demand.
Hello, guys.
Lots of demand.
I am Phil Svitek. And this time, we don't have Marissa in the booth. Marissa will be doing today's How to Train Your Dragon. She's preparing for that. Instead, in the booth, we have a young Bengineer Bottomley.
Hello, everybody.
A Bengineer. That's good.
That's right.
Like an Imagineer, except he's Bengineer.
Turn down for what? Oh.
He turned it down, see?
Turn down for the podcast to start.
Exactly.
That was my best joke yet. Nobody even giggled. Okay.
Well, I got it from a physical comedy kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
It was hysterical. I'm laughing on the inside.
Oh, good enough.
Speaking of comedy, what do we think? For me, I'm going to keep it short. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I thought it was definitely by far and away the best comedy of the summer, and I think it will be hard to top, and it was really freaking funny.
Yeah, I thought I too found this to be a very funny movie. I liked it a lot, and you know, with the competition as comedies go, I did like this comedy better than what I've seen of recent times. I went in with the hype. I felt it did run a little long. I'm tired of hearing this meta movie stuff. I mean, it's a satire. I mean, it's pure and simple. It's a satire on sequels, sequelitis, making sequels. The self-awareness to me almost got a little bit tired, almost crossed the line. It almost became Expendables 2-ish to me, where it was so self-aware, but they stopped it, I thought, just perfectly. The chemistry between Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill really really makes this movie work. And the first one, actually, because the first one I went into 21 Jump Street going, okay, I've never really watched the show. It's an adaptation from a television show. How are they going to do this? The trailers clearly said it was going to be a comedy, and I thought 21 Jump Street knocked it out of the park. I was so pleasantly surprised. This one, I actually think that the first one's a little bit better, maybe because it was fresh, but I love the references. I love the jokes. Channing Tatum's a funny guy. I mean, he shocked the hell out of me in the first one. And yet again, he delivers and he holds his own up against like a Jonah Hill.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to kind of see a little bit of their separation, their open investigation as it may be. So they really stood out. They got to play together, but then they also showed what they can do with other actors. And sure. Jonah Hill has the best bit that you can't tell anyone unless they've seen this movie.
Which
sleeping with the daughter.
Oh yeah. Well, not only is that
Channing Tatum's bit.
To me, yeah. I mean, what that set up, that scene in The Office with Ice Cube, police chief, that scene to me is one of the funniest scenes I think this summer and in this movie.
It was unbelievable.
And the sound device that they, with like, all right, let's just talk about this scene. Jonah Hill comes in prepared. He's got a bulletproof vest on, and he's strapping it in. And Channing Tatum's there looking with that dopey, like, what the hell is going on his face look, and puts the thing down, and all of a sudden you just hear a ticking clock. Tick, 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 ding! And he goes, oh my God! And I just love the sound device that led into him. And he just gets up, you fucked the chief's daughter, that's great! And he goes all around, he does it. I was crying, and he carried that scene. It was just great.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I saw the movie last night. The entire theater was packed. and I could barely hear the movie or what he was saying at this point because everybody was howling, like so loud, crying. I thought it was definitely, and after I tweeted that I got a bunch of tweets back being like, how great was that scene in The Office where he fucked the daughter? It was hysterical. Everybody loved it. It was amazing. Just as far, stepping back for a second, because I know we'll talk more about scenes later, but as far as sequels go, 22 Jump Street was an incredible sequel. As far as comedies go, I thought that even if it hadn't been a sequel, it stood its own. I thought it was really great. As opposed to something like Hangover 2, which completely bit the dust, This really did a great job living up to the first one and taking a step farther. Did I think 21 Jump Street was a little better? Maybe. I'm not positive, but maybe. But I thought this movie was really freaking funny.
You brought up an amazing point. Like, if you're going to compare sequel to sequel, this was so much a better movie than A Hangover 2.
Right.
Only because you could tell that there was much thought and effort put into we have to be smart about this. We just can't, like, we're going to redo ourselves, but we're going to make fun of redoing ourselves. And yeah, I really like that aspect, that they really took time and effort to make this work, where Hangover 2 just seemed to be a money grab. And then, so
that's why I liked the self-awareness. They made so many comments like, oh, the second time around things suck, whatever it was. Throughout the entire movie, they kept poking fun at the fact that they were a sequel, and it didn't go over the top for me. Every time I was like, this movie is very self-aware, and I appreciate that, especially in a comedy.
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoy that too. And you know what? As we're kind of talking about this, Jonah Hill, he deserves recognition because he helped write the first one.
Sure.
He helped write this one. He is an Oscar-nominated actor.
Two-time Oscar-nominated, yeah.
And now this.
Yeah.
He deserves, there's some Jonah Hill haters, but the man deserves recognition.
Here's what I have to say on that. I have watched countless Jonah Hill interviews because as an actor, I think he is great. I think that he is very versatile. I think that he's done a lot of things. When he's told he needs to lose weight, he loses weight. When he's told he needs to be in something like Moneyball, he is very good at the things he does. Do I think he's deserving of 2 Oscar nominations? Probably not. And in all of the interviews I watch, he just doesn't seem to be as grateful as a lot of these other actors, which is why I think a lot of people have issues with him.
Really? Because I see the exact opposite. I'm not one who trolls like watching the Tonight Show and all that stuff. I do listen to a lot of Howard Stern, and he's basically a regular, let's just say. And I find him to be, on Howard Stern at least, to be extremely humble and extremely appreciative of the position that he's in. And
if not for not, with Wolf of Wall Street, he begged to be a part of it, and he proved to Martin Scorsese why he should be a part of it. And so whether or not he's humble, I don't know, but he's certainly willing to go to length to show if he's that passionate about something to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And hey, honestly, if I don't know if he's personally a good guy. I don't know. I've never met him, so I really don't know. There was this one specific interview I saw.
According to This Is the End, he is not a good person.
Yeah, that's true. There was this one specific interview I saw where he was talking to this very dry comedy British guy, whatever, and the British guy said something to him about his weight, and he stood up and he threw a chair and he freaked the F out and was like, "You're hot," like just like a baby, and like stormed out of the interview. It was the most.
It wasn't a
Sorry,
bit.
was that a Superbad interview?
Yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly.
that was a bit with Edgar Wright.
I heard that they tried to play it. I heard they tried to play it off like that, and that it was. I know, but that's what I read, that they were trying to play it off like that, but it was real.
Well,
that's why his PR came out and was like, no, it was a scene.
Hold on, but Engineer seems
tell
like he
me.
has some background.
Are you familiar with Edgar Wright's work? Yeah, I mean, to me, that just came off as like it was intentionally a joke, because that guy, he's a funny guy, and he's got a very dry British sense of humor.
Maybe I stand corrected, but I've seen a few of them where he just doesn't seem. I mean, maybe that one was just a bit, and I'm wrong, and maybe he is a great guy. I just really like when actors seem like they're very appreciative for where they are, and he doesn't strike me that way, but I could be totally wrong.
I judge him on his work. So.
And his work is really good.
Again, I judge him on his work. I don't know the guy outside of the fact that he owes me money, and but
good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, but again, like the interview that he had just recently done on Howard Stern, and that interview came on after that unfortunate incident that happened literally the night before, and then the following morning he was in. And Howard,
you're talking about the F word and not the F-U-C-K word.
Not yes.
When he said it to a paparazzi.
Right. So
yeah,
but again, he's been on Howard Stern before. Now, the one thing that he always lets on, when he's been on the Howard Stern interview, I mean, the guy, look, he comes from somewhat of money. He comes from there are actors within his family. I believe Dustin Hoffman is his godfather, and Dustin Hoffman would have him when he was younger go over to the house, and he would do prank phone calls for Dustin Hoffman and stuff. So it's not like he's an outsider in this industry.
True.
So he might have some more advantages than other people may have had getting in, but ultimately, to me, look, when I saw Superbad to me is one of the. I mean that
you
is
love
just.
It.
I love
it's really
Superbad.
good.
It's a great.
And
movie.
he petitioned to be in that movie as that actor.
Yeah.
Or that character.
And his chemistry with Channing Tatum is undeniable.
Yeah.
They make the movie. This movie, not Superbad, obviously.
No, it makes the movie. But again, what I think 21 Jump Street and its sequel. It's meta sequel. I think what really works is I think it was a pleasant surprise to see Channing Tatum, take this kind of role. I guess it was Jonah Hill who actually even convinced him.
Yeah.
He goes, because Channing Tatum had not done a broad comedy before, and Jonah Hill's like, dude, he goes, you're it. You can do this. Just be yourself. We'll have a good time.
That's cool.
And he goes, you can do this. And again, I think for me, that was one of the pleasant surprises. I remember coming out of there, not because up to that point, Channing Tatum had been in he'd been in Step Up. He'd been in movies that I was not going out of my way to see.
Right.
He was in that, I don't know if he was in a romantic movie or something. But I saw 21 Jump Street, and I said, who knew that this guy could be funny?
Yeah.
He's hysterical.
I don't think he knew that he could be funny.
I think, and especially in this movie, right from the get-go, where they're like, dude, just let me handle this. You'll improv off of me. I think they wrote certain scenes to play to his personality, knowing that he would be that funny. Because it's like, what? You want me to improv?
Right.
And it's just that meta movie.
I love that story that you just told, that he was like being so supportive, though. By the end of this, I'm going to be like the #1 Jonah Hill fan by the end of this podcast, because like actors that can support other actors and say, you can do this, you got this.
Yeah.
That's what you want to surround yourself with. That's really cool that he did that. And obviously Channing Tatum, who had totally not broken out into this kind of movie. He was always the romantic lead, and girls thought he was really hot. And then he kind of fell off the map for a little bit. Yeah. And then when he came back in 21 Jump Street, everybody was like, this kid's hilarious. Yeah, what is this? He's hysterical.
He was actually super reluctant to take the role.
Yeah.
Right.
Jonah Hill had to like really convince him that this was right for him.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome, and I think that he crushed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his timing is both of their timing. It's like, and the looks that they give each other, they're just a great duo.
I'm willing to admit that I have a man crush on Channing Tatum at this point in my life.
Me too.
I totally get that.
I was not.
Wait. Did you see Magic Mike?
I did not see Magic Mike.
All right, then you don't have a man crush. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. It was good.
No, actually, I did see Magic Mike. I'm not claiming I have a man crush on either one of the two, but I mean, I guess what I'm going to say is he's turned out to be a better actor than anybody who comes from a Step Up movie and has actually now gotten to the level that he's at. I give him credit. He was in the first G.I. Joe movie.
What is he known for? That romantic lead, though. I'm going to look
the
this
one
up
with
right now.
the girl.
The one with the girl.
She got amnesia. They were in a car crash.
Sounds like every romantic comedy story.
It wasn't a romantic comedy. It was The Vow, I think it was called.
No, it was before this. I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
Roxy's doing some research.
So, he's both of them together. I mean, we already look at Jonah Hill as being a comedic actor just because of the projects that he's done. But when you throw in Channing Tatum, and again, I just will point back to that one scene where like that one scene in the captain's office, and it was just set up so perfectly, and he nailed it. And him going around and the way he danced around, and he was hysterical. Very, very, very funny stuff. So
absolutely. Any answers?
I'm looking back. Dear John, she's the man. There's just a lot of them. is a good-looking dude, so he probably was typecast a lot.
Yeah.
And then you figured out he could do something like this, and now he's a big threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. This is more of a hypothetical, but originally, who was it? Where is it? You guys talk amongst yourself as I find this
Well,
little fact.
we were gonna, about Channing Tatum too is, again, you're right. He was being, say, typecast and.
Here's what I was gonna say.
I will never have that problem, but.
Speaking of, originally Jonah Hill for 21 Jump Street was very supportive to have Rob Zombie direct this movie. And now that we're 2 movies into it with not Rob Zombie, with Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, which, by the way, I think they knock it out of the park.
Oh, yeah,
How do you think, would it be different than it is? Like, what do you think having Rob Zombie direct it?
You go first, because I
don't know what prevented that from happening, because, again, Jonah Hill did want him to direct the first one.
Most so, I think, with timing. Like, I just think that this crushes it. I mean, they got the best performance out of their actors that they possibly could have, and I think that there would be no better director for this film.
Well, there's 2.
Yeah, both of them. And then with the Lego movie and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and then not with Cloudy, and then with the Cloud. I think that they're really talented. And
yeah, these, they deserve a lot of credit too. I mean, they're quite on a roll.
Yeah, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, definitely. But what were you gonna say about Rob Zombie?
I didn't know that fact, and I am very thankful that it didn't come to happen. I mean, he ruined one of my favorite franchise or horror movies to begin with, by coming on, doing Halloween and then that awful Halloween 2. But there's nothing. Rob Zombie subtlety is not in his dictionary, and. I get it. I was fortunate enough, I will say. I was at Lionsgate, and Lionsgate was the only company who had the courage, the balls enough to release. We released The House of a Thousand Corpses, where nobody else, everybody dumped on it because it was so gory, brutal, whatever. The movie itself, Rob Zombie has his style. I'm not going to say House of a Thousand Corpses was a great movie, and then he came back and did Devil's Rejects, which is sort of kind of a sequel. He showed promise, I felt, as a director, but he was, look, what Rob Zombie brings to the table is a fan base, and we learned that, at Lionsgate. But again, when you see his movies, when you watch any one of his movies, whether it's House of a Thousand Corpses or Halloween, or subtlety is not in his not in his wheelhouse. And for a comedy, sometimes you need subtlety. You need a timing factor. And I don't think he would have been good for the project.
Speaking of timing, so the original movie was $42 million budgeted without P&A, and this movie, as Ice Cube says, it's bigger. We got $62 million budget-wise. We're, in terms of, obviously, I'm glad that they spent the money that they did. They've already, which, by the way, they've made that money back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, the total budget, including print and advertising, or hard drives and advertising, is about $100 million from what I found. Its opening weekend domestic gross was 57. I would have to say at this point it's got to be in the mid 90s, close to 100.
They said as of now it's about 97.
Yeah. Okay. So and
Friday
then,
20th.
Yeah, and worldwide it's at, let's say the last I checked it was 91, so it's got to be again. Peaking worldwide, it's got to be over 100 million at this point. So, yeah, they're making their money back, and
it's got a steady flow right now. People are still going. Absolutely, this is going to be one of the bigger comedies of the summer.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was very fortunate because it had a lot of goodwill from its original. People really liked 21 Jump Street. They thought it was a really funny movie, and that carries over many times. That carries over many times in a comedic sequel, especially if you do it right. The reviews on this movie were solid.
The trailer 84%. Alone, right? There's the 30-second spot for TV, where they literally had, I think, 20 seconds of just 21 Jump Street, and then cut to black and, they're back, 22 Jump Street. And so the fact that you can have a trailer just on that alone where you show nothing of the new movie
Right.
and still get people to see it is, to me, amazing.
Yeah, and they did come out with a good theatrical trailer. They let out certain things. They had like red bands and things like that.
And we saw Channing Tatum trying to do the accent in the trailer. There was a bunch of little funny bits that pulled us in, but honestly, like you're saying, they had enough clout on 21 that they didn't need to do much.
Yeah, there was so much goodwill. And again, like I say, 84% Rotten Tomatoes, A- on Cinema Score. So that goodwill has, I think it's actually even grown. So going into, subsequent week and weekends of the summer, the good word of mouth is for the people who didn't see it last week and going, hey, I heard this sequel is actually really good.
Some people saw it twice. Some people, I know a lot of people bring in friends and going for the second time. I know Benjineer actually went twice. He almost saw it 3 times.
I did almost see it 3 times.
Engineer!
Yeah, and I think, too, that this movie, it has a repeat factor because things that we can talk about, coming up is there are so many things that you can miss. There are so many references. There are so many, lack of better words, Easter eggs in this movie that you might have missed the first time around, and you may have caught stuff. And
let's talk. We'll get to the Easter eggs, but let's start with story, then build to the Easter eggs. Because for me, what I liked about it was, they took the notion, right, just like one of the trailers says, it's the same movie, but now they're in college.
Right.
So now we're in college, and that already has certain expectations, i.e., you have to have a spring break.
Right.
Of course you have to have a spring break.
Oh my God, that brought me back to my college days. I wanted to be there so bad. It was perfect. That looked perfect. I'm getting old.
Indeed. And, from a story element, right, they, again, because it's so meta, they follow the same exact steps, and then, it's just like last time. And then when the switch happens, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they kept it, overall, in terms of like devices, they kept it pretty simple.
Yeah, plot points and beat wise, it was pretty much and it was purposely done so. Even to the fact, okay, so in the first one, it was the gym teacher who was the drug lord, so to speak. Okay, so we go in jail and we see them, and that scene was hysterical.
Yeah, oh my God.
I don't think I really sound like that. Hey,
you do. You don't not sound like that. Yeah.
So that scene was funny. And then this one, you have it's the college professor. It's the psych. It's a faculty member who is the drug leader in a sense, and he's like, it's the same. And he kept on saying something to the effect of, it's the same thing. It's
just
the
like
same.
last
exactly the same as last time.
Exactly the same as last time. It's exactly. And to me,
Infiltrate
that's
the
like,
dealer. Yeah,
it's like really funny. And
but it was so clever because obviously that's where it was going, and the wherewithal to know that. I think a lot of people, I felt bad for Channing Tatum's character when he made his friend, and it's like,
Zook.
Yeah, Zook. Poor Zook is the drug dealer. No. And because we were led
He's not the drug dealer, he's just using drugs. It's totally different.
It is. But I was, like them, I was led down the path of like, he's going to be the drug dealer. I was like, oh no, but his friend.
And I loved Zook. That's
he was.
amazing.
So it definitely fooled a lot of, I think a lot of people.
I hear that, so the actor's name is Wyatt Russell, and his dad is obviously Kurt Russell, and he came out and said that his son had to turn down a role in the Hunger Games in order to take this role, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so
I think it was worth it.
I know, I do too.
It's quite a pick.
Yeah, good decision.
I do too, because I think when you can do a comedy, that opens up the doors. It could open up the doors wider for you if you can see that you could do a comedy. If he was put in the Hunger Games, and I'm not saying he would be bad in the Hunger Games, but let's take a look at other franchise pictures where you're not the star.
You have Jennifer Lawrence, right. You have Philip Seymour Hoffman,
right?
Just that alone, and then you have
look at the kid who played like Draco Malfoy in like Harry Potter. Look
Draco,
at all the Draco. When you look at all these subsequent characters, if you're not one of the main
top 5, let's say,
you're forgotten. But if you can stand out in a comedy like this.
I think that had he not been offered the role in 22 Jump Street, it would have been great for him to take the role. It's better than not taking a role, but I think that this was more of a breakout for him. He was such the perfect counterpart for Channing Tatum in this. They're like they do the whole
parkour.
Yeah, whatever.
Amazing.
Everything they did was awesome. And they were like the yin and yang brothers, where they
they were yin and yin.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know what I mean. They were awesome, and I thought that he was perfect for this role. I really thought he was. So
yeah, he was
I think
great.
it was a smart choice. I think that most people would think about this and say, "Oh, we've got to go with the Hunger Games." I think most people that would have been their choice, and I think that he made the smarter decision.
Yeah, I mean, had he gone Hunger Games, I'm not saying that he would have never acted before, but he could, if things weren't working out, he can go to Hunger Game conventions. So he could, but this one now he can potentially get, I think, he is a standout. He might have more opportunity, but then again, I know nothing. What do I know? But
you know a lot.
He seemed to stand out in this movie, as you said. I agree with you.
I think it was really great.
And that brings me up to one of the funniest, again, another favorite scene of mine. There's so many references being thrown out in this movie. The scene where they were in the football field, they're sitting on the goalpost, and their other buddy, the red mohawk guy, Rooster. Okay, that was one of my funny parts.
Rooster,
where they were talking about like the tattoo. Now, I don't always claim to be the smartest guy in the room, but when for 30 seconds in this movie theater, I felt like I was, and I was proud of myself because, hey, Rooster, what's that tattoo? And he goes, oh, that's my high school mascot. It's the red herring. And I'm like going, he's not the guy that we're looking for, because I love the red herring reference, which in mystery terms,
yeah, of course, when you're the red herring,
MacGuffin. And he said, "Oh yeah, it's a red herring," and I was like, I was the only one in the theater that laughed.
Really?
I was the only one.
My
and
theater
I was
was cracking up.
And so I was like, okay, for 30 seconds, I might be the smartest guy in this room. Hey, kudos for me.
That's awesome.
And then I just, came like every other schmo, but it was fun. But I liked that reference where he said, oh yeah, it's a red herring. So I just knew, you're not the bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, right? I mean, you can take this to a whole new, when Schmidt says he feels like Batman driving those Lamborghinis. Mm-hmm. Remember, Batman, in fact, did drive Lamborghinis in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
Yep.
Yeah, of course.
So, who's smarter now?
Who's smarter?
I rest my case.
Going back to Rooster for a second, just because I'm talking about casting while we're discussing. I think that this was also a really good job.
Yes.
I thought that he did a really great job. He's kind of an unknown. He was in Grown Ups too. He doesn't have that many credits, and I think that he nailed it. He didn't try to steal from the rest of the movie, and I just thought that he hit it on the
Jimmy
head.
Tatro was really good. When we took, since we're talking about casting, one of my favorites ended up becoming Jillian Bell, who played Mercedes.
Yeah, she's hysterical.
The
roommate, the blonde roommate. Again,
so funny.
This scene,
Hit me.
Yeah, were you gonna kiss me? Okay, again.
Are we gonna have sex? Because it feels like we're gonna have sex right now.
We're not having sex. And to me, again, that works because the chemistry between Jonah Hill and she was fantastic. I almost felt as if in real life they might be brother and sister.
I know.
Because like the way their banter and their rapport seems so natural to me that it made it hysterical.
She was awesome.
She was great.
But this was right up her alley. She's been in Bridesmaids, Workaholics. Like, this is exactly the kind of thing she should be cast in. And to me, it was...
Ben, were you going to say something? I know you were cutting in a little bit.
I was just gonna say, Jimmy Tatro. He's like very funny guy. There's a 22 Jump Street episode of At Midnight, and he really holds his own against Rob Riggle and Ice Cube. So he's got something going for him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Check that. I did not know. Check that out, guys.
Yeah, so, Jillian, like I said, she was hysterical. And again, I think part of the reason why it works is because Jonah, again, it was the chemistry between those two. And you could tell that both of them were smiling on the inside. Like, they were just laughing because all their scenes together played out great. And her sarcasm was, okay, old man hands. So, like,
I didn't suspect her, though. I really didn't. I didn't suspect that she was...
I didn't suspect her.
I didn't see it coming either.
Every time she was sitting on the... And I love that in a comedy, because usually I do. And every time she's sitting on the bed and she's like, I'm here. Like, I just... and then I think it's so funny when Maya's like, oh, she's such a bitch. And I'm like... Is she, though? Because when you live in a room with somebody else and you're having sex and they're in the room, I think that makes you the bitch. But just saying.
Okay, to be fair, on the second night, they just talked.
The second night, but not the first time.
That's true. And then, of course, we can't forget the Lucas brothers. They were pretty funny, too. The twin brothers. That was a funny gag.
Keith and Kenny Yang.
Kenny Yang.
That was great.
I like how on IMDb they're just listed as the Lucas brothers. Like,
Yeah, they are. That's what I have it here. Yeah.
It's bizarre. Like,
You guys want to play a fun test?
yes.
All right. You have 15 seconds to speak, and let's see how many things you say the same way.
No. You guys do it.
You guys do it.
You guys do it.
You do it. What?
No. Okay, we'll do
What
it
are you
after.
doing?
I
All right,
can't.
We'll do after.
You know
What?
when you say.
You know what you're saying.
All right.
Stop.
All right.
Yeah,
This is the
exactly.
world's worst.
Wait, what are you doing?
Jinx.
What are you saying?
Buy me a beer.
Buy me a Coke.
All right. Clearly a
Worst
fail
team
on
ever.
my part. Worst duo.
We're gonna make Ben do it. It's part of the
think it's
hazing
actually-
process.
Who's been going to do it with?
Wait, yeah, who are you going to do it with, Ben? Just
myself, I guess.
I can do it.
Yeah, I think he'd pass that one.
He's gotta do split personality.
Hell, I could talk to
Anyway.
myself all the time.
But speaking of the timing was great, and knowing that to cut to the juxtaposition of our two characters and like just the way they were saying it, and how that was continually used as a device throughout. Because then with Zook, they were completely in sync.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. But it shows that like that's not always what you need in a partner.
you need the yin and yang. Which is, by the way, the whole lecture about this is the feminine side, this is the masculine side.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then you have Jonah Hill being the feminine side of
Yeah.
it all.
he was great.
When he was acting so hurt about everything, I just like and oh my god, when he's taking the walk of shame every morning.
the walk of shame
I
was awesome.
lost it. The both morning. Then he starts talking to the girl like, "Hey Sally" or whatever. I'm
gonna watch Friends.
Originally, when we see the shot, I'm like, "What is he doing?" And then I see with his shoes in
Yeah.
his hand. I thought that was just one of the funniest things I've ever
I agree.
effing seen. Like,
I agree.
Oh, brilliant.
In terms of college, I also liked, when they're sitting down and they're discussing the art.
Yeah.
And he just goes, okay, tell me. They just look like balls.
And she's like, "Yeah, I liked her."
She was really good too. Amber Stevens
Yeah.
was Maya. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel like we had, and by the way, in Fast and Furious, Spider-Man, Greek, I didn't feel like we had as much resolution with her as I wanted at the end. I know that's not what the movie was about, and I know we saw
But
her
she-
and she
she-
put the cuffs on, and
Yeah, her and her father came together. They became a duo,
they did. And I don't know, though. I thought that her and Jonah Hill were so cute.
Okay, so you're just mad you didn't see her in the sequels? Are you worried she's not going to be part of the
Yeah,
story?
kind of like
Well,
that.
it's funny because again, if we look, Jonah Hill hooked up with another girl in 21 Jump Street, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he have a girlfriend in that?
Well, she was in high school, and that blonde girl,
Right.
but then it like couldn't be.
Okay. So
But this girl's in college and of legal age.
but
But
the
can't
captain's
necessarily
daughter,
be.
the captain's daughter. I don't know. Their chemistry was good together. I liked
Yeah.
them whenever they were together. They were a charming couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought she was really cool.
Yeah, I liked it too. Yeah, I liked her a lot.
In the most elegant way I could say, she was really cool.
There you go. What did you get? I really loved, again, if we're going to kind of just joke about some college stuff, I loved when Jenko says, alcohol and babes. This two of my favorite things.
Yeah. I mean, college. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we talking about specific things we like now?
I don't know.
Because if we are, the slam poetry.
Amazing.
That's funny.
This
That
is again
sounds
like like you're saying, there are people out there who don't love Jonah Hill or don't love his performances. This, to me, was the funniest. He is so funny. Like this when he gets up there and he starts. I can't even. I was losing it. The entire theater was losing it. It was unbelievable.
The interesting part was, obviously, whenever you direct a movie, you obviously kind of have a final say a little bit, you know what I mean, right. Tonally and whatever else. But because of the Lego movie, these guys didn't really have time for any revisions.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they rewrote stuff on set. I mean, that always happens no matter what. But a lot of the stuff that we are talking about that is funny was probably most likely already in there and just expanded upon as they shot.
In there, improvised, whatever it is. Like you're saying, they didn't have time for the revisions beforehand. I'm guessing they did some there, but I just think that they knew exactly what they wanted to do with this film, and they did it. So when you have like a very strong...
I think Jonah Hill, you kind of let Jonah Hill be Jonah Hill. especially in the slam poetry
absolutely
situation.
And he keeps saying the name, but then making it into words. Oh my god!
I was trying to see if there was any quotes that I can find from that because it was brilliant.
What was the girl's name that had died? Maybe Ben knows because he seems to be the genius of the
group.
No,
I'm thinking Cynthia.
Oh, I don't remember. What was he saying? He's like
Cynthia.
She died for our Cynthias.
Yeah. Oh my god. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was written out like that, but whatever he did, it was great. What did you guys think about the actual script, though?
I mean, I thought it was great. Again, in terms of the final product, I think they let it play out a little bit longer than perhaps I needed to, but at the same time, it played off really well and it kept me laughing. And so there's definitely been 2-hour comedies where it's like, okay, I definitely know this is a 2-hour comedy. This, maybe apart from maybe 2 to 3 minutes, had me fooled the whole way, and I could, it felt like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it may have run a little bit too long, but it wasn't laborious. Like, it wasn't like, this is really a long movie. If they tightened it up a little bit, but I can't complain too much because it really did deliver on the entertainment and the laughs. That's what I want out of a comedy, especially during the summer.
And they had a nice blend of physical as well as, obviously spoken. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really talked about the physical, but it's just the helmet car chases and, them going through drinking.
And them tripping. And the split screen and them like trying to it being "Can You Take Me Higher" versus ass and titties. There's so many parts of this movie. Like, I get what you guys are saying or what you're saying, that it maybe could have been a little shorter, but there was really nothing that I want to cut because it was all so funny. There wasn't a single joke that I was like, that really didn't do it for me. Like, I
see. And again, for me, like when there were the helmet car chase, it was funny, but I kept on. Whoa, don't hit that. We can't afford that. Oh, we can't afford that either. Oh, we're totally going over budget. Like, to me, that was like, okay, I already know you're a self-aware movie. You just some of it just got a little silly. I just mean tighten it up a little. That's
right.
all.
But I agree with you that chase maybe, but the payoff was great when they ended up taking down the goal because that was and we knew that was coming.
Right.
That was great.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
So
I
let's
want to go
talk
see it again.
Let's talk about these Easter eggs, of which Demetri speaks.
Yes. Listen, we already talked about red herring. One of my favorites actually, and again, maybe I caught this instantly. A wonderful reference to the Benny Hill Show. If you notice what the name of the college was, it was the Benjamin Hill Center of Film Studies. Benjamin Hill being Benny Hill, and then it led into a chase in which it was filmed similarly to what the Benny Hill chases were, and it had that music, and I was like, oh, Benny Hill. I grew up watching Benny Hill. I love that one. They had the Annie Hall reference with the lobster. When they were talking about missing you they had on the same page about lobsters, just like Annie and Alive, Woody Allen's Best Picture winner. So that was a reference to Annie Hall. You had an Arnold Schwarzenegger reference where so you probably noticed when Jenko sputtered out fuck you Arnold Schwarzenegger while pumping iron with Zook. And we all know where he comes, Arnold Schwarzenegger's background, stuff like that. I mean, anything else that really.
I don't remember very specifically. I mean, maybe you do, Roxy, but for me, I just remember laughing throughout the whole movie, and so by the end, I just remember the bigger comedic bits, not necessarily the hidden stuff.
The only other one that I picked up on was when they were talking about the new office, and he was like, "It looks like a cube of ice," and it's obviously Ice Cube's off. Whatever, that was funny to me.
And then you had Queen Latifah, which I believe she and were in barbershop. Together, right? And and then
awesome.
Straight out of Compton.
Yeah, but he's from Northridge.
Yeah,
I loved that.
You had I see a Mr. and Mrs. Smith in the middle of their climactic confrontation.
You're trying to Mr. and Mrs. Smith me.
You're trying to Mr. and Mrs. Smith them.
I was like, oh no, this is going the wrong way.
Yeah, that's I mean, stuff like that. again, I think that there was even more stuff. Like somebody told me that there was something about waxy meat or something. Remember how they met with the
meat cute?
The meat cute.
Yeah.
I guess meat cute.
Oh,
is something...
so meet cute is a term that you'll learn in like a film school or whatever, and it's the first interaction in a comedy between two people who are going to be romantically involved. So if you just saw Fault in Our Stars, when they meet, they bump into each other, and then he goes and he hits a wall or whatever. When usually it's the romantic leads, and they bump into each other somehow.
And how did they meet? They met by a Q-tip going into meat. It was
so.
meat.
Yeah, that was funny, and it was literally a meat and Q-tip.
I thought the for me, my hidden gem was at the end. You guys remember that movie, Dude, Where's My Car?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, on the post.
Well, because it was no, it wasn't that. But remember, Jonah Hill's like, so what would you say when you threw the grenade? Something cool.
Yeah.
No, but what'd you say? It was something cool.
Yeah. That's like, what's mine say?
Yeah,
I know.
Now, see, in the helicopter scene, okay, well, there's a reference to Bad Boys 2 with the way when they're coming out and holding their, it's Will Smith and, what's his name? Who's the other guy in Bad Boys 2?
I never saw it.
You never saw Bad Boys or Bad Boys 2? Martin Lawrence.
I'll look it up.
Okay. So it's the way that there's a scene where they're coming out of a building or their cars, the way that they're holding their guns. It's framed the exact same pose. I felt there was a scene when they were dangling from the helicopter. There's a scene that came from outside of the helicopter where it's showing somebody, Jonah Hill, or they're hanging from the skid.
Yeah.
And to me, that looked like from True Lies, where Jamie Lee Curtis is hanging from. It looked just almost identical, frame by frame. I mean, you could find things in this movie. Hell, you could probably make them up and say, hey, and make it fit to something.
I mean, how many times has someone taken a bullet and then it's like, it's the thought that counts?
Yeah.
No,
it's
I'm the one with the bullet.
I was just gonna ask you guys, when you actually miss the bullet and you jump in front of it, is it the thought that counts? I don't know whose side I was on there. Maybe. That's all I have to say about that.
He tried.
He did try, but he could never cover him until the very last.
And then of course, they did another 21 Jump Street homage by having Richard Grieco in this one. In the last one, they had Johnny Depp was in it for like 2 seconds.
Right.
Along with somebody else, and they got killed
at the end, yeah.
But that was, you have
to do
there's
it.
more cast members that they can plug in if they decide to do sequels.
And then those credits, guys.
The credits.
Those credits.
Okay, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, this is where they had their hand in it.
Yeah, when the whole Seth Rogen thing with the contract, that's when I really lost it during the credits. Like, and he's like, doesn't he look kind of different? I thought that was so clever, and I love how all these guys, they're like buddies, and they probably call up favors like, yo, Seth, you want to come down and shoot for a day? He's like, yeah, okay, no problem. Like,
well, apparently it's not how the movie ended. Like, they actually shot those. They shot those little inserts about 6 weeks prior to release.
Really?
They didn't. It wasn't the original way that they had planned it to end.
What was the original way?
The original version had a completely different conclusion that was supposed to be a funny joke, but instead was taken by some audience members as being too sad. And let's see if it even there's a video involved, so I'm not going to play a video.
Too sad.
Yeah, the end credits
we'll include the link for this article, so that way.
Yeah, I'll give you guys the link, but it didn't end that way. Somebody came up with the idea, when they were talking about sequel, and so they said, well, let's just, let's do this. Somebody had the idea.
They really went out. They went all the way to 34.
Yeah, they went all
out. It took them one day. They asked some of their friends, hey, we're going to do this, like Seth Rogen, to come on in.
They were like, hey, buddy.
And they filmed this in a day.
Like, I want to call Seth Rogen and be like, hey, can you come film something with me for a day? Is that cool? Yeah. Awesome, thanks for showing up.
So, but now a funny thing is like, cinemablend.com had this article, why 22 Jump Street's credits are the perfect franchise ender. And, it all depends on what, and it all depends on what interview you're reading, like, about these guys. It's like, Will there be a 23 Jump Street after? I mean, that end credits pretty much blast.
I mean, it would have to be them going to med school. So I don't think so.
Does it have to be, though? I mean, they can go whatever route that they, almost want to go. But the funny thing, does it kill the franchise? I mean, in some interviews, I've heard Channing Tatum say, there won't be another one. And then in another one, oh, yeah, if it's the right story, we'll get together. Listen, I think if the money's good, I think if this movie's already a financial success and then the money's good and it's another smart script, we could see a third.
It would have, I keep comparing it to this, but the only thing I think about is Hangover, and by Hangover 3, I was like just so devastated. I mean,
yeah, but that's because you had the first one that was amazing, the second one that wasn't, and then the third one was. The
third one was actually difficult to get through. So
I found the second,
whereas
it was hard.
This, I mean, they who knows how they could do it and whatever else.
I'm confident though, considering their sequel was so good that. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a 20 Jump Street, some sort of prequel.
Them in high school.
I don't know. Yeah, and Channing Tatum just being a jerk and a homophone. Isn't that what he says in the? He's like, I was such a homophone. I'm like, what? Oh, you still don't quite get it, but you're cute, so we'll let it go.
Ridiculous. A lot of great reviews about this movie.
Absolutely.
Just kind of pretty much across the board. I think, it's always good to see a movie that's a sequel that really does deliver. I'm
Absolutely.
really glad.
Well, yeah, and it just, especially sort of kind of can almost reaffirm your faith that, somebody's out there at least attempting to put an effort to make something work, to make something funny,
right,
and to entertain an audience. I mean, you're being released in a very busy time of summer. But there was an effort involved, and sometimes, like when we talk about a Hangover 2 and in a 3, I didn't feel that the effort was put in there to make this sequel, worthy of the original.
They wanted to make their money, and they did.
And it's rare. It's rare, whether it be a comedy. It's rare sometimes that a sequel can live up to the original. It happens. We can look through his film history. It does happen, but it's nice going in because this year I've been let down by comedies. I was starting off with Neighbors. I wasn't a big fan of, and I was expecting more from Million Ways to Die in the West.
Oh, it was so bad. Oh, that movie was so
really
bad.
See, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was awful.
Yeah, see, I don't.
I thought Neighbors was good.
I don't
just don't like it for the
awful.
poop jokes.
No, it was so bad. Phil, Million Ways to Die was It was awful. It was one of the worst comedies I've seen in a while.
I laugh at all that stuff. Like some of the really immature jokes in this movie I found just hilarious because I'm like 12 inside. But no, that movie did not do it for me.
The mustache song?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. See, I was more of a fan of Million Ways to Die in the West, but I get what I'm leading. Me personally, yes, I like Million Ways to Die in the West. I had a much more enjoyable time watching that. But then you come into 22 Jump Street, and I think the only thing that for me might, again, I'll go critic-wise. Okay, so Million Ways to Die in the West, prior to seeing it, I heard there was so much ill will towards that movie that when I saw it, I was like, oh, this movie wasn't as bad as some people purported it to be. Going into 22 Jump Street, going into it, I had heard so many amazing things about it. Like, it may have tainted me a little bit, but it didn't detract from my enjoyment. Like I said, there were many times where I laughed out loud. And, horror movies and comedies, to me, when you see them with an amazing crowd, and if they are good and they deliver on their goods, last summer's The Conjuring, you see that movie with a crowded theater, man, it's an amazing experience. A great comedy, I feel, is the same way.
By the way, right, the comedy, I feel like, is so hard to edit, right? For example, I'll give kind of an analogy and then I'll move into comedy specifically, but Peter Jackson edits on a big screen. So he knows how the audience, when they're watching in the theater, will kind of perceive it, because it was different. Because in the old days, you have to recut after when the theaters, because it changed a little bit. With comedy, it's so tough because you never know how much time to allot for laughing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're watching it alone, then yes, you'll laugh. but sometimes you don't need as much of a break in between the jokes. But when you're in a theater and people are just constantly laughing, you have to account for that and just allow those moments to breathe.
Yeah.
And so it is the biggest nightmare to edit, because who do you go for?
You know, you bring up, because I never thought of it that way in a film. I know on sitcoms it's like freaking obvious that, you know, the actors play out a joke and they let it, you know. But in a comedy, again, growing up watching things like Animal House, Caddyshack, Mel Brooks, there was never a breather. The jokes are spitfire, and I feel like in this too, to me, editing for a comedy, you have to know when to cut, not necessarily for your audience sake, but what makes it fun. How long do you stay on something before it becomes not funny? And when do you cut so that it's funny? What angles are you getting? For me, comedy is really about editing and pacing. I never really looked at it. I never thought of it like editing for an audience. It'd be interesting to ask the editors here and even the filmmakers.
Yeah.
Now I want to meet somebody like them and go, when you edit, do you ever put in that breather to allow the audience to laugh? Because how many comedies have you seen where you're like you said, you saw what that crowd did. That scene with Channing Tatum, you're just laughing hysterically, and
I was about to talk about that. I was about to talk about that because honestly, no, it wasn't room to breathe, but I didn't need to hear what was going on past his initial reaction, and knowing that he went to go tell everybody, I could see all that. Everybody was dying laughing, and I might have missed a couple lines, but I didn't miss the point. And so instead of giving me room to breathe, as in like taking a pause or some silence, it visually gave me what I needed, and I didn't need to hear it, which was what was giving me the breathing room that I needed.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and really I do think that editing plays a large part in whether your as to how funny your comedy is. And a great example that I'll give is the movie Porky's. There are two scenes in Porky's, and they're pretty much back to back. And there's the one with Kim Cattrall as the howler. They're at basketball practice in the gym, and she's howling away. She's getting nailed up in the rafters, and it's just the expression on the people's faces. And one coach who's just off to the side, he has to hide behind the curtains because he's laughing so much. And then there's another, there's another scene, and the way that plays out and the way that it's edited is amazing. Then there's another scene that follows the scene where, if you guys remember Porky's, rent Porky's or see it because it is hysterical. There's a scene that takes place after a particular shower scene where a penis is through a hole, and the bitch of Buchenwald gym teacher grabs it, and then it cuts to the principal's office. And in the principal's office, it's basically male, and you have this Beulah woman trying to describe what she saw and what she pulled. And the way in the scene is one take, and it's not really edited. And it's one of the funniest scenes only because of the expression and the laughter that's going on. Mm-hmm. And again, I take it back. I bring this up because editing in this particular, in Porky's, it just adds. I mean, it really makes it work and laugh. We've talked about Judd Apatow, who
he doesn't tend to edit.
Doesn't tend to edit. He lets scenes play on and on and on. There's no cut, and they seem to be laborious to watch through. But this movie, I thought the editing was fantastic. Spitfire jokes. I mean, Mel Brooks knew how to stack up a comedy. Joke, and if you miss the joke, it's no big deal because another one's right around the corner. Right. And again, when you're in that environment, it's so great to be part of laughing and sharing laughter with everybody. It's an amazing film.
Before we head out of today's podcast, let's. Roxy wasn't here for this debate, and this might be an ongoing thing. But with the trailers, how much comedy do you give away? And
I was here for this when you were talking. Well, or maybe it's been an
ongoing. Maybe it's been an ongoing debate for years to come.
We've talked.
You were talking about Neighbors.
Yeah, we talked about it a million ways to die in the West. So this is a bit ongoing. So welcome back to the discussion. I feel like I made the argument when we were talking about a million ways to die in the West. Yes, you can include your funniest bits in the trailer,
sure.
But if your comedy is so funny, in the case of 22 Jump Street, It doesn't matter because you're going to laugh throughout the whole movie. There's going to be tons of other stuff. If your only jokes can be contained within 2 minutes and 30 seconds,
and you
don't
have a 2-hour-long movie, then you messed up. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and again, that was one of my criticisms against Neighbors is that, the airbag gag was very highly prominent in all of the marketing, and then when it came to the movie, not only does it happen once, but it happens 2 other times after, and it just got boring. 22 Jump Street had some funny scenes. Number one, they had a great red band trailer. So the scene at the very beginning of the movie,
when they're trying to speak with the accents.
Yes. Yeah. And he's the Mexican Wolverine and stuff like that. Okay. That was in the trailer. But there was so much more. So we get those laughs, but we already are conditioned because it's funny. But there was so much more in that scene that was hysterical.
Yeah, there was.
There was the truck chase scene, which, sort of kind of reminded me of one of the Beverly Hill Cop movies where Axel Foley is being, hanging outside of a truck as it's speeding down a thing. And another meta movie reference. But there was so much more to laugh at. 22 Jump Street delivers above and beyond the marketing. Because it was actually a very funny movie.
Right, it was.
The same thing with Hangover, the first Hangover movie.
And also, on top of being funny, like you were talking about, when you have this college movie, what do we expect to get? Yes, Spring Break, and we got that. We also got the pledging. We got the frat house. We got the artsy people. Like, everything that a college-type film should give us, I felt like we were given. And it really, it knocked it out of the park for me.
Yeah. You didn't get as many girls, though. Certainly not as much nudity.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
But I also found too, compared to some other movies like Neighbors, it didn't have to rely
on the raunch.
Yeah. And again, I'm not a prude. Please don't misunderstand. But this movie didn't have to fall back to that. It really stayed tried and true. And listen, we're going to be clever. We want to make a movie. Basically, they said, look. Embrace failure, go for the unexpected. Don't be afraid of sequels. And this is from Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Don't be afraid of sequels or making fun of the very thing you're making a movie about. Mm-hmm. And they sat down and how do we go about doing this? And I really think that their story as directors and as writers, I think it's fascinating. I love how they, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, here we are, and it's an animated film and it's their first foray, and they were fired. They were fired off of their first movie that they were doing, subsequently to be rehired to finish the movie. But now I don't think anybody's going to be firing anytime soon.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
and Phil, you mentioned reviews a little bit ago, and one of the last comments I want to make is, other than the critics or whatever, I have not talked to a single person that has seen this that hasn't liked it, which is when I know that a comedy did a really good job. I'm going to say I've probably talked to 40 people who have seen this movie so far, just briefly. Oh, I saw it. How'd you like it? Oh, I loved it. And everybody's like, oh, it was so funny. Even the people who weren't as enthusiastic, they were like, it was really good. Just maybe not as good as the first one.
It was good. I mean, I know people that have not seen the first one that have seen this and enjoyed it just the same. Which, by the way, brilliance on their part to open up the movie.
Previously on 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
That was great.
Right in. Who cares?
Well, and the other thing that I like about these guys too is I'll get another quote from them. So Lord,
we're talking about the directors.
The directors, yeah, and he was talking to an NYU student on the way to work today, and he asked him for advice, and so he gave him a line. He said, "You need," and he got this from what is it? Phil Lord. Phil Lord said he got this from artist Chuck Jones. And basically, you need to hurry up and fail. It comes from a story that animator Chuck Jones tells about his teacher at Cal Arts, who said, "You all have 10,000 bad drawings inside of you, and you would better start getting them out. You need pencil miles to be a great artist, animator, or filmmaker, and the sooner you start making mistakes, the quicker you learn."
Cool.
And to me, what a great. Just get out there and do it. And if you fail, you're going to learn from that. You become better. I think you become better as a professional. Yeah. I think from personal life, I think that's a great quote. They truly are, I think they may still believe that they're still finding their way. But look at the success that they had with the Lego movie. And again, if there isn't a self-referential movie, it's like, how do we attack a movie which is basically a commercial for toys, so that we get, how do we make a movie out of that and make it clever? They not only did they do it, they made a shitload of money. So there's going to be a sequel to the Lego movie. And then, how do you make a sequel to, 21 Jump Street and have fun with it? And they clearly did it. And like I said, if, the numbers are going to align, I think there'll be a third.
That's right. Well, that's Ben telling us to wrap it up and have some fun. We're going on spring break!
I wish. Yes. Guys, I'm now a Jonah Hill fan.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. And the only one of us that has a social media is Roxy Striar.
You can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar.
And Cabo.
I wish.
This week only, appearing at the local bar in Cabo. Follow us on Movie Anatomy on Twitter, anatomyofamovie.com for more dissections. We've got How to Train Your Dragon 2. We've got, last week, what did we do? We did Edge of Tomorrow with Christoph Beck.
And Fault in Our Stars.
We did Fault in Our Stars. And next week we're doing, what are we doing next week?
Jersey Boys, perhaps.
Jersey Boys. We got Transformers coming up. And all these other movies. Guardians of the Galaxy. So many good things. Thank you, Bengineer, for being in the booth.
Thank you.
And on behalf of everyone here at Anatomy, we would like to thank you for being a part of it. Let us know what you guys thought of this. I mean, it's so brilliant. If nothing else, let us know what your favorite moment was. Your favorite joke. It doesn't matter. It's such a great movie.
Your favorite reference.
And we will see you here for the next dissection.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.